Hello, everyone, and welcome to our new. We're going to edit that part off. Start this over here. It's the first one of these I've done too, Aaron. All right, I'll knock that off, but we're going to go from here. So, hello, everyone. I should probably pause. Hello, everyone. I am John Anderson, Director of Media for Nebraska Firearms Owners Association. We are Nebraska's voice on Second Amendment issues. We're followed by almost 30,000 Nebraskans who strongly believe in the rights and freedoms protected by the Second Amendment. We invited candidates running for Congress, governor, Nebraska State Legislature, city councils, and county sheriff to participate in our Online Townhall Series, Meet the Candidates. So our format for this is an online event. We record each interview. Each recording is unedited. We don't cut anything out or add anything in. Once we get started, it is what it is. Our members have prepared questions to assess candidates running for elected office. I would like to introduce to you Aaron Hanson, running for Douglas County Sheriff. Aaron, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, John.
You betcha. All right, and we may have to have you speak up just a tad there.
Okay.
But all right. Nope, we're good there now. All right, so let's just jump right in here. Our first question is, why did you agree to participate in this online town hall with Nebraska Firearms Owners Association?
Sure. Well, I respect the NFOA because I respect law-abiding gun owners. I respect law-abiding citizens exercising their Second Amendment rights to protect themselves, their families, and our community. And also, I myself am a law-abiding gun owner. I was raised by a father who raised his 4 children to his 5 children. I'm sorry, it's been a long day. His 5 children to respect the Second Amendment, and that both comes in terms of owning and possessing firearms to protect our household and our family, but also being an avid hunter. So firearms is something that's been in my family and my upbringing, and it's an important part of who I am.
All right. Our next question our members wanted to know, what is your favorite firearm and how often do you shoot it?
Well, it depends on if I'm at the firing range. Right now, I'm an 88 Tactical. I'm a member there. When I'm here, I'm gonna probably be shooting my 9mm Glock 19 Gen 4, usually with my Octane 45 suppressor, which I just got my tax stamp for after I think 14 months of waiting. So that's probably my most fun firearm to shoot at the range. When I'm not in the range, I'd say my Savage 30-06, deer hunting with my daughter and my sons.
All right. Now we'd like to hear, what is the number one purpose of government?
Yeah, the number one purpose of government is to uphold citizens' rights to safety, prosperity, justice, and liberty. That is at the core of our constitutional rights, and the government has that utmost responsibility to uphold those obligations to its citizens.
All right. Our members have several issues of interest. Let's dive in with this next question. What are you going to do to protect Nebraskans from the federal government's attempts to restrict the Second Amendment?
Great question. Okay, number one, Douglas County is the largest county in Nebraska. And so therefore, being sheriff of the largest, most populous county in Nebraska is not only an honor, it's a responsibility. And I think that responsibility includes, number one, speaking out publicly to elected officials, both on the local, state, and federal level, about people's rights to keep and bear arms to defend themselves and their families and our community. But then also, once the sheriff gets past that point of educating and using the bully pulpit to try to maintain a good, strong understanding and avoid laws which are contrary to the Second Amendment, then it is the sheriff's obligation to utilize good discretion. It is a clear constitutional fact that the federal government cannot tell local law enforcement leaders what to do. And local law enforcement leaders have discretion. And that discretion can cover anything as in terms of, we have a speed limit. And just because someone goes 70 miles an hour in a 65 mile an hour zone, you have the discretion to give a warning or not enforce that law if you have a good reason. You have the discretion to do otherwise. When it comes to laws that are imposed by the federal government, I think it's incumbent on law enforcement leaders to use a similar discretion on a case-by-case basis to ascertain whether or not a federal law crosses the line in terms of infringement on a law-abiding citizen's right to keep and bear arms.
All right. Now we're going to go a bit further with some specific issues that we're addressing lately here in Nebraska. What is your position on constitutional carry, and what will you do or what have you done in support of that position?
Sure. I really have to thank the leadership of the Nebraska Firearms Owners Association. We have maintained great relationships and communication. Our relationship has evolved over the years, where I think our communication is better than it's ever been. As a result, in this very building that I am in now, 88 Tactical in Omaha, I was a part of the very first meeting between Senator Brewer and representatives of the Omaha Police Officer Association and the Omaha Police Department, in which I very much urged those organizations to consider being not in opposition to constitutional carry if we could get certain safety portions of the law in place that would close loopholes for individuals who would abuse firearms and use them to commit crimes, even serious misdemeanor crimes. So as it stands today, as an individual, I support LB 773, the constitutional carry law, with the amendments negotiated with the Omaha Police Officer Association and OPD. I have lobbied my state senator to support it and to vote for it, and have offered to explain to her why she should and why it would be a good idea and not be a hazard to public safety.
All right. How about your position on red flag laws, and what will you do or what have you done in support of that position?
Yeah, I have never taken a position in support of red flag laws. I have concerns about the due process portions of red flag laws. And furthermore, I believe that there's a lot of current laws that we have on the books, specifically the Board of Mental Health procedure, that we need to utilize more. What people don't realize is that when someone is adjudicated as mentally unfit, either by the Board of Mental Health or a judge, that decision will render them to be prohibited per federal law. I'm convinced that we leave a lot on the table when it comes to those tools that we have right now. I think we need to look to expand on those current laws before we look to get additional laws like red flag laws, which again, I have due process concerns about.
All right. As one of the few states without it, let's discuss your thoughts on state preemption of firearm laws. And again, what will you do or what have you done in support of that position?
Sure. So I have testified in opposition to state preemption laws. And I've also attempted to negotiate common ground on state preemption laws. And we actually came very close a few years ago. But one item, we were going to use the handgun purchase permit as the bright line standard between who was a law-abiding gun owner and who was not. And obviously then we found out that there's no records kept. The sheriffs don't know who they've issued those handgun purchase permits to or not. I think sometimes we focus too much on the words preemption, because here's what it means to me. If there was a state law that were proposed that would preempt local government from being able to prohibit certain types of firearms, such as AR-15s or expanded capacity magazines, or even in this constitutional carry bill, LB 773, which would prohibit local government from prohibiting people from carrying concealed weapons, I'm in support of that type of preemption. What concerns me, though, is the unintended consequences of treating 72nd and Dodge like Western Nebraska. It is problematic to have somebody driving down 72nd and Dodge with a loaded AR-15 in the front seat on their lap. That may be less problematic out in the sandhills, but that's where I think those good conversations need to occur between law-abiding gun owner groups like the NFOA and law enforcement to help really find that smart common ground. At the end of the day, I think we all want to make sure that law-abiding gun owners have the ability to keep and bear arms. We just have to make sure that we're doing it in a way that doesn't make our community less safe and doesn't actually create more enemies against law-abiding gun owners due to perceptions that they're creating a hazard.
All right. Recently, we had an opportunity to address some much needed protections via LB 300 Castle Doctrine. What are your thoughts on Castle Doctrine, and what will you do or have you done in support of that position?
That was Senator Slama's bill, I believe, correct?
I believe so.
Okay. I was supportive of that bill. The Omaha Police Officer Association was supportive of that bill. That was my recommendation to the Omaha POA members, was to support the Castle Doctrine law that Senator Slama had introduced. Unfortunately, it did not get a vote. I don't know that it was prioritized, but I think that would be a worthwhile law to have in Nebraska to bring us in line with most other states. I don't think it's fair to ask law-abiding citizens to have to retreat when their life is in danger. Law-abiding citizens should be able to protect their family and their household without having to retreat from criminals. So I would be supportive and have been supportive of Castle Doctrine laws as well as stand your ground laws.
All right, and that segues right into the next question. In our state, we don't have the ability to remain in a place we are legally allowed to be, and we have a duty to retreat. What are your thoughts on duty to retreat? What will you do, or what have you done in support of that position?
I can't remember if Senator Slama's bill specifically had a duty to retreat portion.
It did not.
Okay. I would be supportive of a bill that would not require a citizen to retreat from a deadly force threat or from a threat on their safety in order to keep themselves and their families safe. Again, I think that there's many times where citizens can't retreat, sometimes where retreating makes things more dangerous, but we have to make sure that people are also using good common sense and that people are not trying to precipitate an armed encounter. So I think that as long as we keep a good, healthy balance and people are using their heads and not instigating an incident, I'd be supportive of those concepts as sheriff.
All right. In general, are there any specific gun laws that you think should get repealed?
Yes, I think Nebraska is one of a few states that prohibits concealed carry permit holders from carrying in religious institutions. I believe we are maybe one of only one or two that does not. That's concerning. I spoke with a law-abiding gun owner here recently who provides sanctioned security for his religious institution. And he is afraid, because there's also a religious school in the same building, that he would be breaking state law if he were to carry a concealed handgun to protect his congregation, even with blessing of the leaders of the church, simply because there is an educational portion of the building on the facility. So I think we need to take a close look at those laws to make sure that people have the ability to keep themselves safe while they're in church. I also want to take a close look at gun-free zones. I think that although I respect private businesses' rights to be able to refuse service to anybody, if you are going to have a gun-free zone, you sure as heck better be protecting people that are in your store. I don't think it's fair to ask people to do business in a gun-free zone if there is nobody in the store to protect them and their family. So I think that's a conversation that we need to have as well.
All right. NFOA believes in education. What is your position on mandating firearm safety classes or programs in K through 12 public schools?
I'm all for it. I think that if we can demystify and de-romanticize firearms to our young people, especially young people who are not exposed to firearms through their families, I think that's a positive thing. I can't tell you how many times as a police officer who's worked years on the gang unit, on the fugitive unit, and on the canine unit, it is not uncommon for innocent young people, innocent citizens, and children to find firearms that have been discarded by criminals. It is a good thing if they can at least have a basic understanding of the fact that they should not touch those firearms, and the fact that if they do touch them inappropriately, that they could discharge and injure somebody. And that also is the same thing if they find themselves in an environment where there's a firearm in their proximity in their home, or if a young person around them brings it to them. It's important that they have an understanding of firearm safety. Obviously, I think parents should have the ultimate decision. So if parents don't want their children exposed to that, I think we should respect parents' rights to make that final call. But I definitely would agree with the concept to provide that training to children in our schools in Nebraska.
All right. Being a 2A supporter, what is your position on the intent and purpose of the Second Amendment?
Sure. The Second Amendment is there to keep people safe from those that would do them harm, both foreign or domestic. That would include both criminals and potentially tyrannical leaders who want to subjugate them. And I can tell you, I try to keep a close eye on issues that happen around the world. And for anybody to say that it is unrealistic that a government would try to subjugate their citizens or try to use force on an unarmed citizenry, you're kidding yourself if you don't believe that's a reality. We're human beings in this nation, just like they're human beings in other countries. And so I think the Second Amendment truly allows us to be a polite society, both in terms of protecting us from criminals who know that they could be at risk if they try to infringe the rights or safety of citizens, but also if the government tries to become tyrannical and subjugate that same citizenry. It's a good checks and balances that we need, and I think that's what the founders intended.
All right. Lastly, let's move to the Nebraska Constitution. How will Article 1, Section 1, the Statement of Rights of the Nebraska Constitution, impact your decision-making in the role you are pursuing?
I think the language is very straightforward, and I think it's very plain language. And essentially, Article 1, Section 1 guarantees law-abiding citizens of Nebraska the right to own and possess and bear firearms, both to keep their families safe, to keep themselves safe, and to engage in their own recreational time involving those firearms, whether it be hunting or target shooting or some other type of sporting event with regard to firearms. So I think Article 1, Section 1 of the Nebraska Constitution is very straightforward and should be taken literally.
All right. So these questions are going to be the same questions that we ask in every interview. We intentionally did not allow for follow-ups. If you want any follow-up or any clarification, you are welcome to reach out to each candidate directly. Aaron, if somebody wants to follow up on one of the questions or one of your answers here, how can you be reached?
I can be reached either via an email. That's Aaron, Aaron, Hanson, Hanson, for sheriff, 1R, 2Fs, at gmail.com. Also, I know your NFOA president, Harold, knows how to get a hold of me. We're in communication with each other, not infrequently. And so she could easily get a hold of me and set up secondary discussions. Would it be fair, John, for me to give a summary in conclusion before I finish?
I don't have that down as one of the opportunities or questions, so I think that we're not going to be able to do that.
Fair enough.
But again, I would encourage anyone who wants to reach out and get any clarification that they want from you after the video does go public. We will be releasing these 1 week before Election Day here later in April. So this has been Aaron Hanson, who is running for Douglas County Sheriff. Aaron, I want to thank you for your time and for letting us ask you these questions on behalf of our members.
Thank you for the opportunity, John, and I appreciate your membership for giving me the opportunity as well.
Absolutely.